Hello, everyone. I just want to say a little bit about Paul Sieghart's Professions as the Conscience of Society, and also to explain why I'm giving this to you. The third part of the course, the fourth part of the course, or the last part of the course, really has to do with the idea of a profession. And in a business ethics class, that I think is a very relevant topic. One of the last things we'll read is whether or not we consider management, or whether anyone could consider management as a profession. The idea of a profession is a rather complicated, I would say, vague and old idea. The recognized professions are, right now, I would say the most prominent ones are medicine and law. But over the centuries, the military, having a career in the military, and having a career as a clergyman or clergy person, as a priest, as a Protestant minister, as a rabbi, but especially as a minister, because of the origins, at least in our culture, of the idea of being in the clergy as a profession has been the most prominent one. So the question we want to address is whether the idea of being a professional in the sense of being a member of a profession is something that's conceivable in a business context. That's really the reason that I'm doing this section of the course, and the reason that we're reading this. And I think that this notion of what a profession is, and you can just Google it. I mean, if you want to get the necessary background in terms of what a profession is, and what it means to be a professional in the senses of being a member of a profession, rather than being a professional in the sense of doing something for a living. There is definitely a use of the word when we say professional athlete, professional musician, professional gambler. These are people who do things that a lot of people do, but they do them as a way of making their living, and therefore are called professionals. That is not the sense of professional that we're exploring in this part of the course. We're exploring the sense of being a professional as in being a member of a recognized profession. And what exactly that is what a profession is, and what needs to be in place for you to call yourself a professional in that sense of being a member of a profession is exactly what is at stake here. This work by Sieghart, Professions as the Conscience of Society, is about professional ethics. It is about what he considers to be the foundation of the professional ethics that a lawyer or a doctor is actually bound by, and why they are. And for him, the basis of professional ethics is an outgrowth of the fundamental relationship, the kind of relationship that a professional has with their patient, with their client, with whoever it is that they're working with. And the most important aspect of that, well, there's really two, but the most important, I would say, is at the bottom of page 118, where he says, after basically saying that ethics itself depends upon relationships, and it depends upon there being situations in which people need to make decisions between selfishness and altruism. At the bottom of page 118, he says, this is right here, with that introduction, let me come to the subject of professional ethics. Like other moral questions, those of professionals can only arise in the context of a relationship, of which the simplest is that between a professional and his patient or client. Whatever the profession, whether it is that of the physician, the lawyer, the priest, or any other, the principal feature of such a relationship is that of a gross inequality of power. Almost by definition, the patient or client is weak, vulnerable, and in need of help. The professional, and now I'm down here, is strong, skillful, and specially qualified to give that help. So, what for Sieghart, what characterizes the professional relationship, the relationship between the lawyer and the client, between the doctor and the patient, between the priest and the parishioner, is this so-called gross inequality of power, where the professional has all the skills and special knowledge, and therefore the patient or the client or the parishioner is especially vulnerable to exploitation. And Sieghart believes this means that the professional has to choose altruism. He says here on page 119, now the outstanding characteristic of all professions is that their members are bound, without exception or qualification, to choose the second of these modes of conduct, that is, altruism, and not the first, that is, selfishness. The cardinal sin of any professional, and the prime ground for his expulsion from the profession, is to prefer his own interest to that of his patient or client. And what follows is, the idea that a professional, yes, professionals get paid, and sometimes they get paid very well, but the purpose, the main goal of the professional's working life is not to maximize profit, it's to provide a service. And that leads us to the second really important idea in Sieghart's article, and that is the idea of the noble cause. And that is introduced again on page 119 in the second column. He's just come up with a scenario where a doctor knows that they could improve their patient's health by poisoning somebody else. And obviously you can't do that. But then again, why can't you do that? Like, why can't a doctor poison somebody if they knew that poisoning that somebody would actually help the health of their own patient? And at the bottom of the second column, Sieghart says, well, the answer, I think, lies in a second criterion which distinguishes a true profession from any other trade or occupation, namely that the professional serves another more general cause in addition, and in a case of conflict, superior to the cause of the well-being of his individual patients or clients. The cause is sometimes called a noble cause. So why can't a doctor harm somebody if they knew that harming that somebody would help their patient? Because it would conflict with the noble cause of medicine, which is the promotion of human health, protection of human health. Why can't a lawyer lie or do something illegal or unjust to help their client? Because that would violate the noble cause of law, which is the promotion of justice, and so on and so on. Both of these criteria for something being a profession, basically, that Sieghart suggests, put certain things above profit. If you are a professional, you're allowed to make money, but you're not allowed to make money at the expense of your patient or client. As a professional, you are allowed to make money, but not if it requires you to somehow go against the noble cause of your profession. Okay, so that's his basic idea of what makes a profession and what kind of strictures then are placed upon the behaviors of professionals. In our context, in the business ethics class, the real point of interest for me is whether what else he has to say is true, and that is that this is totally different from business. That in business, as long as you obey the law, you're allowed to basically harm people, and that profit is the number one, the number one concern for a business person. Not everyone would agree with that. And I wonder if you agree with that. That is, can we conceive of business, and we're going to be focusing on management as a kind of profession that thinks of itself as not putting profits or personal enrichment first, but rather thinks of it in terms of the service model of the recognized professions like the religious professions, medicine and law, and perhaps others. Social work has been recognized as a profession. Engineering has been recognized more or less as a profession. Should management and business in general be seen as a profession? Now, if you've been thinking about the course and you've been thinking about how these readings relate to each other, certainly there are connections here, or there are echoes here in Sieghart's ideas with R.H. Tawney from the excerpt, with the excerpt from the Acquisitive Society that I gave you, and perhaps even of Homer Saracen's ideas at the beginning of his management training manual.